So I've been doing this.
How about this? I'm being interviewed by Skeet Reese.
I know, this is, so.
It's kind of weird, man.
At times I want to punch him. I wanted to punch him like a lot of times.
We've known each other a long time.
We know it. So I've been doing this, 21, 22 years. I feel like an old man on the tour.
Kid.
Yeah, you have been doing this for a lot longer. So
30 years, man.
Dude, you are so old. I love it.
I know, it is.
I look at all the years. I mean, you and I have had some great battles over the years as far as just, and it's not battle. I mean, we're just doing our job.
Back in the day, they definitely, you know, I think Bass definitely wanted to create some rivalries and things like that. And, you know, it was good. It was
good PR. But I mean, there's still, I mean,
when you come to Michigan,
I always blame you. I blame you because there's 2 years I won the points title. Then we did a postseason tournament, and you won Angler of the Year because of those two events. And those, I was like, dude, you got 2 trophies on your mantle that I want. Those are mine.
Oh, I've given a few away over the years myself.
I know,
too, so.
I know. But it's like we talked about before. You were just doing your job. You just played under the parameters that we had at the time.
I've done this for 30 years and fished under all kind of formats, multiple. I've fished all the leagues. I've, you know, points, pounds, you know, E50s. Everybody forgot about all that. And,
we did.
You know, and the deal as a pro angler is you just have to adapt to whatever the format and the rules are of the game.
Yeah, well, I wish you didn't adapt so damn good. Because you've made it a little difficult.
We all have our moments.
So, anyways, I'm more curious about you. I mean, we know your titles and trophies, and from that standpoint. But like, I know me. I remember catching my first bass. I remember sitting on a canal in Louisiana and catching a bluegill when I was 5 years old. What do you remember your first fish you ever caught of any kind?
So I remember my dad took me ice fishing when I was 3, and I truly remember that day. I didn't even fish, but I just basically walked around on the ice, and there was a lot of other anglers out there, and it was just bluegill fishing. But I was just fascinated by it all. I was, you know, going and kicking snow in the holes and picking up people's fish that they had laying on the ice, and I you know, I was a kid that just like every other one that's drawn to water, and you know, it started that passion for fishing. And you know, my grandparents lived on a small lake, and in the summers I started going there, and you know, I mean, I just fished for whatever. It didn't really matter. But when I caught my first bass, that was a game-changing moment. And it was just a little largemouth, but the moment for me was a trip that my dad took me up north. He took his company trip, brought all his guys every year on a spring trip up to northern Michigan fishing for smallmouth, you know, around Memorial Weekend, and he made me wait till I was 7 to go. And I caught my first smallmouth that weekend, and I only caught 3 all weekend, my first time ever. But the first one was literally a 10-inch, which at the time a 10-incher was a legal smallmouth in Michigan. And we did keep it and fillet it. I caught it on a live night crawler, but on a Zebco 33, it was just everything I could do to get that 10-inch fish to the boat. I mean, it jumped, fought, pulled, screamed, dragged. It was, it made an indelible impression on me, and I was definitely never the same since. And I've always been fascinated by smallmouth.
I remember my first bass. I was 8 years old. It was a 10-inch largemouth. I remember I was sitting in a raft with my dad, and I cast just a floating plug out there, and I was just looking around. I'm like, hey, I caught one. So put it on a stringer. My dad, you know, we keep it on the stringer for a while. At the end of the day, we're fishing. Hey, you got to let it go. I'm like, what do you mean I got to let it go? And it's not big enough. It's 12 inches, and I had to let it. I just remember I cried. I was so mad at my dad at that point in time. But
ice fishing it's a blast, especially now with the way electronics have come. I mean, you can watch. It's just like drop shotting in the summer, you know, where I don't even, the way I ice fish is just like the way I bass fish. You know, I've got a Humminbird unit with mapping and sonar on it. Who the heck is calling us during the interview?
What's your phone?
Hang on, let me.
KVD. Let's see, do you want me to answer it?
Rambanus.
Boom, boom.
No, but you know, the electronics are so good, it makes it fun. You know, all I do literally is, especially when you go into a lake where there's a lot of other fishermen out there and there's a lot of already holes drilled, if there's not I'm not going without anything but a power auger. It's just like having the trolling motor on high. You go out there, and all I do is drop that puck in the hole, and look, if I see anything down there, I'll drop in. If I don't see anything, I just keep moving.
Got it.
So,
okay.
You'd like it.
Yeah.
And jigging for bass would blow you away.
Right.
It's taught me so much. You think that they don't bite in the cold. Through the ice, you'd be shocked at how shallow. I've caught them 3 foot deep under the ice.
Oh, really?
Jigging for them.
Yeah, that's just wrong.
Yeah, well, it's just,
Whatever.
hey, they got
it's what you got. That's what you do.
Right.
I'm from California, bro. We don't freeze.
You go tuna fishing instead.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. I see pictures of you. I know where you head.
I love it
The
all,
wintertime. I know you're down in Florida and you're saltwater fishing with the family.
I have been south this year. That's no doubt. It's just the way it's worked out with the schedule.
All right, so here's a question I got. I've always wanted to know, what would KVD be doing for a living if you didn't take up bass fishing?
Well,
exotic dancer?
No, I have no rhythm. Absolutely.
That's true.
I know that.
I know that. We've
You've
been in
that.
enough clubs and after parties and stuff. You don't dance. He's not a good dancer.
I can't dance at all. I grew up in the business for sure. My brother, you've been to his store a bunch, the dealership. We do that big. You've been a bunch of times to the spring promotion that he does, and that's how I started. I started selling boats, running the boat sales department, and I was still literally a teenager. I was 19, 20 years old, and we were doing that, and I was aspiring to. There was no college bass fishing. There was no high school fishing. There was no thinking of fishing as a professional career. Then
right.
I just did it because I loved it, and I loved the competition. That aspect, and I lived it and breathed it. I watched Larry Nixon and Denny Brower and Rick Clunn and Tommy Martin and all those guys, and we were a Bass Pro Nitro dealer, and I just was fascinated to see just how good those guys were that I watched on television and read about and I just wanted to see. That was my motivation to go and branch out from fishing tournaments around home to go and fish a national tournament. It's just to see how good those guys really were that I put.
Well, you pretty much proved to everybody they're not as good as you. So because you started spanking them when you're like 20 years old on tour.
Well, it's just
Yeah, it's been good. If you're like me, you don't feel old.
I
you look older
pretty
than
good.
I do, so.
I don't know about that.
Anyways, but I noticed now, all right, on Bass Pro Tour, we've got all these young guys that said that, they watched us.
I know it.
When they're kids.
I'm
like, well, you're still a kid. I'm like, come on, you're like 24. Oh, yeah, I remember growing up watching you guys on television. So it is interesting now that we have this whole group of guys that.
It's a new dynamic.
It's totally different dynamic now. So those guys that you were just talking about, the Tommy Martin, Larry Nixon, Rick Clunn, that inspired us when we were younger. Now, especially you, more than probably anybody in the history of our sport, has inspired more young guys than what they did to us back then. Because I know when I was in high school, I was like the only kid that actually fished.
Yeah, now fishing's cool, to these high schools, and I see it because I've got 2 boys that are, they're into it. They're in college. I've seen the college fishing thing explode. Now we're seeing the high school thing, and it's amazing. Honestly, for years and years and years, we collectively as an industry were trying to find ways to get more kids involved in fishing. Remember the Casting Kids programs and things like that? And it was good, but none of that stuck. And now all of it there has never been a more opportune time to get into bass fishing as a whole, and there's never been more opportunities, I think, to do it as a career. Not that it's easy, because it's hard as it's ever been, but the awareness, and I'll say a lot of that happened to certain areas. Without a doubt, I think the ESPN era was the time that brought fishing truly mainstream. It brought it to the sports fans that followed other stick and ball sports, and made it to where at least they understood what it was. And now there's very few people that follow sports at all that have not ever
heard of it
or seen it, because we've put it on. It's on so many networks now, and the internet and all the social media and things like that. It's just and bass are so widespread, and it's so diverse across the country. So that's a big part of the growth, I think. To me, it's super exciting.
All right, so talking about high school, So I know, like, I didn't finish high school. I dropped out in the middle of my sophomore year. I don't promote that. It's, you know, kids stay in school, take advantage of every opportunity.
Luck counts, right?
Luck. But, you know, fortunately, I caught a couple bass along the way and was able to make a career out of this. But I'm curious, what kind of student were you? Were you a straight A kid, or were you like a C kid?
I was really pretty much straight A's and B's.
Oh, come on! Don't.
Until
I'm
really.
I'm gonna call your mom and dad. I want to see your report cards.
Honestly, until I got into high school, and I played baseball growing up. I was a big baseball player. Started Little League at 7, and we had a dominant team. I really loved it. It's something that I really enjoyed. And in 10th grade, I had a falling out with my high school coach. And I mean, it was about fishing, because baseball's a spring sport. And he was like, man, you need to focus more on baseball and worry less about fishing. And we got into it. And
hey, coach, look at me now.
We fought, and I quit. And, you know, it's interesting because, 10 years ago or so, he came back and apologized. He was trying to push me to be a better baseball player, but in the end, you know, you can't. And I'll tell anybody this is really important. Kids that are out there today, if you believe in yourself, if you are truly passionate about anything in life, you don't let anybody tell you can't be something, you can't do something.
Yeah.
Because if you believe, you can do it. And I'll promise you that's 100% how it happened for me.
And
there's no substitute for hard work. You know, I mean, you sacrifice. I've sacrificed a lot. My family has, and all that. But the reason that I've had the success that I have is because I love it. I mean, you have to. And today, against these young kids we're talking about, you had better.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it's a full-time commitment. I mean, and you know this. I mean,
24/7.
And my schedule, I've always looked. I mean, I've always had a pretty busy schedule, and, you know, engaged in the business quite a bit. And I don't think there's anybody in this industry that's had a busier schedule than me than you. I'm so glad I'm not KVD at times, because you know, I'm trying to get. I still get some weekends off. No, you don't get a weekend off. You are on the road, so you are 100% proof that what we do is hard work, and you have to make a commitment. And there's a sacrifice, the families, the time on the road. You don't get the playtime.
There's no time, especially at this point in my career. I mean, you can't. It's like, hey, I'm gonna, you know, back down a little bit, have a little more family time, do whatever. It's not that way. You're either all in or you're out. You have to give it to compete. You have to give it 110% or more.
All right,
all the time.
So those of you that know Kevin, and, you know, I've obviously been around him quite a few years now. So as fierce as he is on the water, I mean, he's super competitive. I mean, I don't care. I mean, if it's trying to catch. You
have to be. We all are.
Yeah, we're all super competitive. But there's some things I'm not competitive at because I know I'm not very good at. But Kevin, so.
There's several things.
He thinks he is the best and competitive in a lot of things. So, like.
I get that from my mom.
Is that where it comes from?
Yeah, it's unfortunate in certain areas for sure.
Because it doesn't matter. If we're going bowling, if it's talking about grilling, he's
throwing bags.
It doesn't matter. He's like
golf is the one thing that
that's the one thing I got him at.
Yeah, dude.
Yes.
I cannot. I mean, and it fries me. I cannot hit a golf ball. I cannot.
You hit a golf ball about as good as you dance.
There you go.
Got it.
All
right.
I will submit to that one.
All right. So where do you see yourself 10 years from now?
I hope I'm hanging out with the family on the beach. You know, I don't see myself competing.
10 years from now.
It's a grind. It's tough. I've done it for 30 years. I love it, but man, it's just.
Are you gonna come join me on a boat in Mexico?
Yeah, we're gonna go. I want to. You know, I love being a communicator in the outdoors. I like being a spokesperson for sponsors. I love to help people catch more fish. I mean, the most gratifying thing that I see or hear at sport shows or on social media and things is, you know, when you post a video or you do an article or something like that where it's, because trust me, I can't laugh like Jimmy Houston or entertain people like that. So I have to try to teach people. And I think I'm pretty good at helping people understand at least my philosophies and what works for me to catch more fish. And you know, I mean, you've got a lot of signature products. I do too. I've created a lot of different things like that.
I like to think I helped you, you know, push you a little bit on the marketing side. It's like,
listen, in any sport, the only thing to motivate you to be better is the competition.
Yes.
So you're only as good as the people you compete against.
Yep.
And excuse me, the tougher, these allergies down here in this hot weather, but the tougher.
Did you say hot weather?
It's hot weather.
It's
I'm from
75
Michigan.
degrees.
It's hot to me, man.
You're melting over there.
I've been south most of the last month, and you know, that just goes to show you. I mean, I literally have been home for about 36 hours in the last 42 days. So, and that's just that's part of the
That's why
part
you're
of the
KVD,
deal,
bro.
Well,
So, anyways, we got to go in for a meeting. I know we're getting ready to fish Lake Fork here. You've been here a few times.
it should be.
This is the first time
Epic.
for me, so
We have had 2 Bass Pro Tour events this year on phenomenal lakes at great times, and we have just really gotten slapped by Mother Nature. In
you
both
call
of
it
them.
slapped. I call it a straight square kick in the groin.
It has been. I mean, you've competed a long time. I have too, and what I've seen condition-wise at the last 2 events is some of the most extreme things to happen to a fishery in my 30 years.
Yeah,
So I look at the forecast this week, and you know, God forbid that we get storms or tornadoes. I mean, that's what's on the
50
schedule.
mile an hour winds.
But we're not going to get a crippling cold front or anything like that. It doesn't look like.
Yeah.
So. And Lake Forks, I fished here a bunch of times. I've seen it over the years when it had grass before the bass virus. Not that I know it very well at all, but it's incredible. This should be an epic week.
Here's a question, and then we'll get in there. I know we got in this meeting. How bad do you want one of these Bass Pro Tour trophies for your collection?
Definitely really bad. You know, last year was a eye-opening experience for me. I've fished Major League fishing since the beginning, and with no practice, no information, I've got a pretty good record. But against all these guys, when you got 80 of the best there is out there, and give them time to research and practice, last year was it was tough,
Yeah,
and I just it's so intense. The score
agree.
tracker, knowing exactly where you stand all the time is so critical. It's so much different than how I've competed over the years, and
Well,
my job is to adapt to whatever format. So I'm not making any excuses, but I'm
we'll
loving
get
the
there.
2-pound minimum this year.
But I know you're like me. I mean, it's
I want to target big fish. That's what I've built my career trying to do. But you have to adapt to whatever format, and now with this, and it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the year plays out. But this week, the 2-pound minimum shouldn't be a problem.